This week will be ridiculous as we have the CPI release, the Fed seemingly bent on raising us into oblivion, which despite the fact they'll basically get in their way this entire time, we have a ton of geopolitical uncertainty. China having all sorts of issues, Europe slowing down, and the US showing signs that revenge spending and travel is starting to fade away as well. So let's discuss all that today and kind of how to best position yourself to take advantage of the madness that is surely coming in the market. I just ask that you gently tap that like button and consider subscribing too. It's super easy to do if you like the truth without the hype. So we all know there's problems in China. There's no denying that, but how big the problem is honestly, guys, impossible to determine. I hear everything from they are in a depression to China will collapse in 5 years to China is coming out of this and will take over the world in that same 5 years. So, who knows what the reality is? The point being, nobody knows the extent of any of this, so everybody is just strictly guessing. But most of us agree, at least I'd say 98% of the people out there agree, that there are problems, so you have to account for them and at least understand that growth will stagnate at a minimum there, if not continue to decline. But the picture is actually a little bit clearer in Europe because they actually, report real data, and we actually get a clear picture there. They're showing clear signs of slowing down by virtually every economic measure, and of course, some more than others and some countries more than others. But they all got hit harder with inflation than the US did, and kind of depending upon the country, they're starting to see it abate. They're starting to see it abate, if I could talk. Anyways, they're definitely seeing it, basically abate much slower than the US did. So that is a concern right there, especially with the economies overall basically slowing down. And the US is finally slowing down as well from its breakneck pace it's basically been at for the past year plus or so. The data is showing that the revenge travel and the revenge spending has basically peaked and is coming back down as well. So basically you have China, you have Europe, and you have the US all slowing down at a time when inflation is still not tamed yet, meaning you cannot stimulate growth using interest rate drops. You just can't do that because you still have to tame inflation. And that right there is a big, big problem. But wait, there's actually more. In regards to the stock market, we had a red hot market to start the year off in 2023, and we're already sitting on multi-year gains. So even if we drop down 10% from here, it was still a great year for the market in general, basically meaning, hey, there's not a reason for Wall Street not to sell us off, if for no other reason than to just take profits. And many stocks not only recovered from that beatdown last year, they were beaten down like crazy last year, but are now hitting that overvalued territory. So a huge swing from severely undervalued to severely overvalued. And then we have all the stocks that rallied big last year, basically the safety plays, the old men style stocks. Basically, remember, they were just riding high. They didn't show any sort of crash last year. Now they're finally starting to turn over as well and fall. But if you look at valuation, which is what we preach all the time here, some of them are still overvalued and need to fall more just to get back to fair value, much less fall into that undervalued territory. So we've had a massive rally, right? There's froth in the market again, and safety plays are still sitting overall in that overvalued category. So right there, we have the setup for a nice pullback in the market, which if we're all being honest here, the market needed to cool off. It just doesn't go up in a straight line, guys. It's just not how it works. It needed to cool off. But that also means this CPI report will be scrutinized a lot more than the past times. Basically, the past CPI readings, the market kept rallying because inflation continued to decline, but that didn't happen the last time, and that was the first time in a long time that didn't happen. We actually went up just slightly, but the market kind of shrugged it off as, basically a bump in the road. So if we get inflation heading back down again, the market's just going to continue doing what it's been doing, and there is not going to be a lot of concern. But if we don't see an inflection back down, and instead we go back up again, even just slightly, the narrative that the Fed won't pause anymore, but instead give us 1 or 2 or maybe even more rate hikes will be the prevailing narrative, and it's going to send stocks down. And that means trouble, especially for high growth stocks that we all love to buy because they will sell off hard because of the massive rally they've had this year. So what exactly do you do in that scenario? Well, I will simply do these 3 things, and more importantly, I will remember this one crucial fact about investing. You cannot dispute this one fact I will give after these 3, so just hang tight, guys, we'll get to it. So first, I will avoid emotions by using my plan. And I got it, guys. Go ahead, I know you guys are gonna blast me down in the comments because, me saying this is boring and repetitive, but you cannot wait until this stuff hits the fan to reinforce that point or to actually decide to get serious about it, and that's why I hammer on it so much. If you don't have a written plan for what you're going to do, if things do go wild, and I mean very, very specific written out plans, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to miss opportunities. And here, let me give you an example. Having a plan allowed me to easily and confidently buy Meta in the 80s, Google in the 80s, Tesla in the low hundreds, and many of you other guys out there were buying stocks like Nvidia in the 100s, and the list goes on and on with stocks where people were taking advantage of because they had a plan for the particular scenario when it came up. And on the flip side of that, I doubt any of the people who sold Tesla in the low 100s, for example, had that written out as their plan to sell at 102, for example, or whatever the heck the case was. That wasn't a plan. That was someone who lacked planning and then had an emotional response to a lot of fear right here on YouTube and in the media. And a plan honestly removes that emotion because a well thought out plan had you buying Tesla if it ever got that low, not selling Tesla instead. And if you don't know how to have a plan, I mean, basically guys, you got to learn it. Join my group. It's down in the pinned comment. We have an entire course dedicated to that and we'll help you through that entire process. But that may not be right for you. I totally get it. So just punch it in right up there in the search bar here on YouTube. Join another group, guys. Read books, team up with somebody else, or just formulate it all on your own. It doesn't matter. Just get the information and create that plan. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to panic regardless of what YouTube and the media says. It's already started. I'm already hearing it. I don't even know why we're hearing it, but for whatever reason, everybody wants to push the fear narrative. But we have seen this show before, and we all should have learned our lessons over the past year. The fear is always overblown. And here's some examples. Meta was a completely dead company. Tesla was going to 80 because it was on its way to 60 because there's no demand for Tesla anymore, and Elon killed off his customer base. There was no more growth for Google because ChatGPT killed off their business completely, and nobody's going to use Google search anymore. And then we had Alex bang the table, so Palantir is a terrible company going nowhere, and it's not investing in. And we also had a recession is coming that will be worse than 2008, and then it was going to be the Great Depression 2.0 is right around the corner, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. It doesn't matter. Whatever it was, it had people selling out of great stocks at the lows and or basically being too fearful to buy when stocks were on a massive discount during that same time. Don't panic sell or avoid buying because of all the doom and the gloom. You have to ignore the noise. And third, and this one may be the hardest one, guys, I will simply not care about the short term. Let me explain this one a little bit more so you understand the reality of investing because it could be ugly in the short term if I'm being honest. I know if the worst case happens, I'm going to be down in the short term, but long term I will be fine and very happy that I executed my plan because I'm not interested in being right tomorrow. I'm interested in being right a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. That's my focus, and that is where I keep my focus and not on the day-to-day movements of my stocks. You're a day trader, swing trader, I totally get it. Then care about the day-to-day movements of the stocks. But for a long-term buy and hold investor, if last year didn't teach us anything out, it shows you that the day-to-day movements and all the other stuff that comes around that don't matter. What matters is you're buying great stocks on a great discount and just holding through all that noise. But even if you think all that's garbage and none of it works or it doesn't apply to you or whatever the case is, you cannot argue this one fact that has proven true over and over again throughout the history of investing. And that is you cannot time the market, guys. Warren Buffett can't do it and says nobody can do it. Peter Lynch says the same thing, and basically so does every other great investor that's ever come along. They all agree that nobody can time the market. I mean, last year it was proven that YouTubers can't do it. The media is even worse at it, as are hedge funds and Wall Street in general, and they control this whole thing, and they still couldn't do it. So don't get caught trying to sell here to basically buy it lower there, because we all think Wall Street is trying to sell this thing off or play this game or play that game or whatever the case is. Over the long run, you might be right in the short term. Remember, we talked about, basically, I don't care about the short term. You might be right in the short term, but over the long run, you will make mistakes and you will eventually lose. And basically ask all those folks who sold Tesla in the low 100s because it was guaranteed to go lower according to all the geniuses and all the experts out there, or those people that sold Palantir at 10 because that was the right trade and all the charts said that it was going back to 7 and then it went up to almost 20. Didn't work out well for all those folks. So make sure you aren't doing that and instead are putting in the work, following your plan, and executing your plan. And if you don't know how to create a plan, do evaluation, get price targets, all that sort of stuff like that, make sure you check out the pinned comment, join the Market Insiders Private Group where we have 5 courses you can take for free. We got a stock analyzer tool you can use. We got tons of exclusive videos down there, hundreds of them actually. You get direct access to me. You can slide into my DMs. There's so much in there, guys. Make sure you check out the pinned comment and see if a membership's right for you. Click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.